And then I'm going to Okay. We're gonna see if it works. Now I've got to go to okay. Okay, so can you see me?
Yes.
Can I see you? No. This is what happened to me yesterday. But we are live.
Woo woo.
All right. So hey everyone, how's it going? We are just trying to get rolling up in here. I'm trying to get my thing to work, and you know, like pretty natural for me to oh boy, just technology does not do good with me. So
I kind of know what you're saying. I did a reel yesterday, and I had to watch a YouTube video on how to do like a reel and how to add like text in it. I'm like, if I was maybe a little bit like younger or something, I probably would have gotten it like super quick.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, no, I don't even know. I don't know how to do a reel. I don't know how to nothing. So yeah, you ain't alone, girl. Okay, well, let's get started. So welcome everyone to this live. This is one of my best friends in the whole world, Amanda Mejia, who is a childbirth educator. And so I wanted to bring her on here because she's incredibly knowledgeable with all things childbirth, all kinds of resources, really just incredible information. So I wanted to pick her brain for y'all today. And just, we're going to talk about a wider range of things. But first, I just wanted you, Amanda, to kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, your family, and kind of how you ended up here in Texas.
Okay. Well, I'm Amanda, and I am originally from California. I don't really tell people that because they're like, yeah. But but I'm originally born and raised in California, and my husband and I, who Casey knows as well, we just decided, we took a huge step of faith, and we were like, listen, if we don't get out now, it's going to get really bad. Mm-hmm. Because it had already been really bad considering where we were at a couple years ago, just with kind of what we believe and how we want to live our life, and just the choices that we make for our children and our family. And we just knew that it was just going to get worse. And we just wanted a little bit, the freedom to fly under the radar a little bit better. So we moved to Texas, and we've been here for 2 years. And we have family here, so it kind of was a no-brainer when we were thinking about moving to a different state. And now we're here. I've been here for 2 years. I have 3 kids right now, and they all range from 6, one's turning 5, and then one's going to be turning 3 here in a couple months. So my kids are super close in age. It's seriously always chaotic, a little too much to handle sometimes, but we're doing it. And I feel like if I can do it, then I want to help other moms know how to do it, because I mean, there's many people before me who have been doing it. So it's like, and worse conditions, like no electricity and water. So I'm like, okay, like this is probably not as bad. But I have my days where I'm like, can I make it? I don't know. Are we gonna be okay, guys?
Can
Um,
you survive today?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I started my childbirth education journey and advocacy when I got pregnant with my son. And really, it happened by chance. It wasn't really something that I grew up doing. I'd never seen a baby born, never talked about birth. It was never really like, it's such a natural thing just because I'm the youngest and I just never had any younger siblings. So I didn't really get that experience with my mom being pregnant, and my mom just wasn't into things like that. So it really happened by chance. I met somebody on a park bench, and she was a holistic nutritionist practitioner. She invited me to come to her office to talk about certain things, and then I found out that I was pregnant. So I talked to her, and she was like, definitely want to try to do a home birth before this and this and this. And so I kind of pursued it, and it really appealed to me. And just with the midwife that I had, she was really pro education and making sure that you're educating yourself, but also just that community was really warm and welcoming. And I'm just the type of person that's like, if you tell me that I can't do it, I'm going to do it. And just like, and
Say
I'm
I
going to,
won't. Say I won't
yeah,
do it.
seriously. I'm like, the moment you tell me that's against the rules, there's just something in me that's like, let's see if it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so just that really kind of appealed to me. I wanted to be that first person to, have a home birth in my family because nobody did. And honestly, I did not get a lot of support, just not a lot. There was a lot of people who were very much like, well, I hope you get what you want, but just know there wasn't really like, yes, let's do this. And I get it. Some people had their concerns, and, I wanted to take those things into consideration, but I was just so for it. And my husband is for it. So we just, and the people that we got to know in our community and stuff were, I mean, we pretty much surround ourselves with people who were like, yes, totally do it. But then there was people who really weren't very supportive, and we're just like, well, what if happens with this? What if happens with that? And so it just really helped. Getting those questions really helped us be prepared, because it was like, well, if this happens, then, just so you know, it's not an emergency. But if this happens, then yeah, we know it's an emergency. So it just really helped us to be more educated. And we didn't get the birth that we wanted in the beginning. And so I ended up having an emergency C-section. Really, it was failure to progress, because I just had been in the hospital for 24 hours, wasn't dilating at the rate of time that they wanted me to. And just with everything that was kind of in the mix of it, I knew this was going to happen too. I fought my doctors on it, and I was like, no, we're not doing this because of this. And eventually, it ended up all happening exactly how I knew and said it was going to happen. So that was pretty devastating. And so learning about that and kind of healing from that. And then I found out that I was going to be having my daughter at a very short interval of pregnancies, which for a C-section mama, that's kind of risky. To doctors and to, and so getting educated on that really helped me as well. But overall, the only way that I know what I know, that I know, is just because I really educated myself. I felt like I really had no choice. It wasn't really something that I was like, okay, because that's just not my personality. It wasn't something I wasn't just going to be like, well, if you say so, because what if there is something different? What if there are other alternatives that, I don't know about and that are going to best suit me? So just really came by education. So that's really how it kind of all started. And just this whole mama cabinet, that's really now where I'm at. I'm creating a business called Mama Cabinet, where I offer childbirth education services and resources to moms. And it's really just the idea of every mom has a medicine cabinet, whether it's a laundry like cabinet. Every mom has someplace in their home where they go and grab whatever they need. And that can range from like medicine, it can range from like first aid kits or other different things that you give to your family and children to help them in their time of need. And so for me, it was not necessarily a literal thing, but it was almost like a mental cabinet that you have instinctually in your gut and in your mind. And you have there, you store like information and knowledge and education, experiences, your own wisdom, all these things that equip you as a mom to be able to make informed decisions and know that this is what I'm doing. And I feel confident making these decisions for my family. So that's really where Mama Cabinet came from. So it's been a long road, but we're still going on it, but it's good.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, so you have Amanda, who y'all just heard her little personality, and I'm the person that you're talking about that's like deer in the headlights, don't have a clue. So I'll share a little bit about my kind of birth experience for those of you that can relate with me, because I feel like probably you could attest to this. I feel like more people are probably like me than they are like you, which is like you, I feel like we should be, and I want to be. And I feel like the older that I get, the more kids that I have, you know, I want to be that person, and I want to be more informed, and I want to be more empowered to make the right choices for our family. However, in the beginning, that was not the case for me at all. In fact, when I got pregnant with Landry, our firstborn, so she's 9.5, when I got pregnant with her, we had just moved to Houston from Stephenville, so about a 5-hour commute from Stephenville, not commute because we weren't commuting, but I'm saying 5-hour drive from Stephenville. All of our family is up in this area. So first kid, new place, all the things, and had to switch OBs in the middle of our move. And so it was kind of stressful, but instead of like reaching out to someone like yourself and doing some childbirth education stuff and really kind of figuring out what in the world, like what's going to happen during this whole process, I was the opposite. Like, I just thought, oh, like you just sit in the bed and you have a kid and like it's fine. And it's just like it is on the movies when they're sitting in the bed and they just wait for the kid and you push it out. Like, that's just all it is. And so why would I need to take any kind of educational classes? Duh, I already know what to do. Well,
I'll just lie there. Everybody does everything. Like, this is like my last bit of vacation before, things get real. Okay, guys.
for real, for real. So yeah, that's what I did. And you know what I did is I went in early to be induced, which that's like a whole nother thing. There's a time and a place probably for that. I had no business doing that. I wasn't even ready, and went ahead and did it anyways. And 48 hours of labor later, that ended in a C-section, pretty traumatic thing. Landry appeared, and so the start of motherhood happens and all the things are new. And so then, after I had Landry, got pregnant with Britton, our OB just said, once you've had a C-section, then you have to have C-sections with the rest of your kids. And I was like,
I'd be like,
yeah.
It's time to switch providers.
but so that is what another thing we want to talk about today is just educating yourself, because not that there's anything wrong with it. Like, I'm not going to lie, the perk of having the C-section is being able to schedule that thing and go in and get it done. Like, that worked super good for my personality, because I'm like, I know when this is going to happen. I got all my ducks in a row. Like, there's that
it's
whole
like
thing.
the man-made way of serving an eviction notice to your own child. Like, okay, you're getting out, like,
This day.
bye, Felicia. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's totally what I did. But all that to say, I didn't even know that it was an option, or that I even had a say in how that second kid was going to come into the world. I was just like, yes, sir, didn't question a single thing, didn't research a single thing, didn't nothing. I just did and thought that I just kind of am at the mercy of whatever that doctor, that person says, like, I have to do it that way. And so I have now had 3 C-sections with my 3 kids. And by the time that Bowen rolled around, I really just started figuring out this, like, oh man, like, I'm the mom. I have a say with what happens with my kid. And that is when I feel like the wheels started turning of like, oh man, I wish I would have known this from the beginning, or I wish I would have known that, like, I am the one that is the advocate for my kid. I am the parent, and I say what goes or doesn't go. And so with that, I want to, let's first talk about, before we get into informed consent, because that's going to be, I really want to hit that, but I do want to talk with you about what are the birthing options out there, just in case, maybe people don't know, but what are those options? What does that look like?
Well, there's actually 4 different options. And they all range between what type of person you are. But normally when I get this question and people ask me, what are my options? The first thing I ask somebody is, what do you believe about the birth process? Like, what is your own birth philosophy? Because if you think birth is a natural event, then you might want to lean towards option, 2 or 3. 4 is a little bit extreme, and I'll get into those here in a little bit. But if you feel like it's not like it's a medical emergency, or it's something very serious and it's very dangerous, then you're probably going to want to go with option number 1, which is really hospital is option number 1. And these don't really go in like order for me. I'm not ranking them based off of like, you're first going to want to choose the hospital. It's just, that's not what the numbering for them is for. But the only reason why I put hospital as the first option is because a lot of people choose that option. It wasn't until like the 1970s when about 90% of women were choosing hospital birth over home birth. And it just really kind of took off, actually not in the 70s, in the 30s, because the only reason why they did that was because of the sanitary issues and because of the just industrialization, like revolution and things like that, where a lot of hygiene, things like that were just not well for home birth situations. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of just excelled from there and really kind of started off as women choosing the hospital birth if you were like pinkies up, like we're high class, we can afford it. It just was not something poor people did because they just didn't have the money to be able to do it. And it kind of just skyrocketed from there. So it's really, that's what people want to choose. And a lot of first-time moms choose that option, and even second-time moms. And a lot of times they do it because they've had such a great experience. They have no complaints, no birth trauma. They like their OB. They're pretty satisfied with that decision. So they usually make that decision again. But now that with, what's happening now in this world, it's a lot of first-time, second-time moms are not really choosing that option, but it is the most popular decision. So hospital would be your first option. The second would be...
Can I pause you real quick? Just, I wanted to mention to those of you watching, like, this whole purpose of this video is not to condemn or persuade you in one direction or the other. We're literally just want to provide you education and resources so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. So we just want to throw that out there. Like, we'll answer whatever questions that you have, but that is our heart, is that this is a resource and an education for you, and that it's helpful. So just want to throw that out there. And so, number 2.
And really, it's just, when I tell people this information, I try not to put my own personal preference, because what I did, I had a home birth with my second and my third, even though I was a short interval pregnancy, and I tried for my first, and being a VBAC mom. Not these options that might not work for you, and that's totally okay. The point is, in knowing what your options are, is that if you want to choose either of these options, great. Let's get you to your goal, and let's help you support and make the best out of this situation. Because really sometimes people don't have options because of their medical history or because their past experiences that like kind of bar them from doing other things. So the second option would be a birth center. Now, this birth center situation it's not as medicalized, but they do offer a little bit more than you would say in a home birth situation. It's like a good balance between like not having a super overalized medical birth versus a home birth, which are two different ends of the spectrum really, in when it comes to care and when it comes to environment. And so the birthing center is like a good middle ground for people who don't want to do a home birth, or maybe don't have the space to do a home birth, or maybe don't even feel comfortable in the space that they have in order to have a home birth. But they also don't want to do it in the hospital because they want a little bit more of autonomy, which means freedom to be able to make their own decisions and freedom to be able to kind of do what they need to do in order to get through the birth process. So the birth center is a really good option for people in those. But the thing with birth centers is they are great, and I feel like if cities have them, then I think it's awesome. But the amount of birth centers that are lacking in the United States are huge. I mean, not every city has one. I mean, the birth centers are very far and few between. So if you have a birth center in your area and that's what you're looking for, that is a really great option. I highly encourage that. I highly encourage the hospital if you don't have either as well. But the third option would be a home birth. The home birth is for people who really want all natural, because there's no way of not having a natural birth when it comes to home birth. I mean, you're going to get less interventions with home birth, less interruptions with home birth. The care is really centered around family-centered care. And the same with birth center, they do really advocate for about family-centered care. But home birth, it's because it's in your home. The care is just so much different than you would find in the hospital, because the midwife kind of becomes like your family, and because you feel safe with that person, and because you are at your most vulnerable moments with this person, they do kind of become grafted into your family. So it's really for people who don't like hospital settings, who rather people who are, the way I put it is like, do you like to be home? Like when you're sick, like, are you okay with staying home and just being sick? Like where are you more comfortable when you're the most vulnerable? And a lot of people like being home. I mean, I don't like sitting in a hospital when I'm sick personally. And a lot of people feel the same way sometimes. And so although pregnancy and birth is not a sickness, and it's very different than being sick, but it's just that you're vulnerable, you're very vulnerable. So you want to be in that space. So a home birth is really for that option, but it is all natural. It is a lot more responsibility on the mom to be able to know how to manage and cope with labor successfully. So it takes a little bit more knowledge and work in that situation, because you got to know how to do different positions to feel comfortable. But there's a lot of freedom. So you can birth in the kitchen if you want. You can birth in your bathroom. You can actually go into second stage in a tub, where a lot of hospitals that do have birthing tubs don't allow you to do that, where in home birth you can. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. So there's really a lot of freedom. The fourth option, which is you're not supervised at all. It's a home birth. It's called a free birth, or an unassisted birth. And that just means you don't have any midwife, nothing. You pretty much, what you do is you go to a midwife or you go to an OB, just verifying the confirm of pregnancy, and you kind of just go from there. You get a certificate saying that, yeah, she was pregnant and that was it. But you have no assistance from midwives. You can hire doulas in those situations. In any of those situations, you can. But doulas are more popular when it comes, not necessarily more popular, but because you don't have any assistance in the fourth option, a lot of people hire doulas to kind of help maintain that space a little bit. And I do have difference of opinions on that as well. But those are really the options there. So really it just depends on what type of person you are, what your birth philosophy is, what you want to get out of the experience. Not just the obvious, because I think everybody wants a healthy baby, and they themselves want their own life. They want their baby's life, and they themselves want to be healthy to be able to take care of their family and their child. So really that is the obvious. We want that for all situations, but really people make decisions on those options based on what they believe about the birth experience and what they ultimately really want to get from those experiences. So
yeah, no, that's all such helpful information for sure. Definitely information I wish I would have known from the get-go for sure. And so kind of with that, so with you and your business and what you do with your courses and things like that, tell us, like someone coming to you, what all services do you provide? And yeah, kind of how all that's set up if someone wants to come and visit with you.
I say, right on, girl, let's do this. No. But really, I do kind of say that. So don't be surprised if this comes out of my mouth. But anyways, so I offer 4 different types of packages. So the fourth one is, or the first one is my lavender package. I base them off of flowers because I love wildflowers and things like that. So, and I just thought, oh, this would be cool. So it pretty much is my option where it's really a lot of one-on-one time. So it's basically like if you came to me and you were like, hey, I want childbirth education, I would show you what my options are. And the first option would be, which is my lowest option or my lowest in price. And I pretty much offer all the materials. We spread out everything that in my course or in my curriculum, we spread it out over however, say you're 24 weeks, we'd spread it out over like a 12-week period. And we would spend an hour together, and I would just basically talk about each topic that would be in my curriculum. But with this one, it's different from a lot of my other ones. It's a lot of one-on-one time. So you get to ask me questions. You have the ability to contact me anytime and ask any questions you may need or maybe come up with. I provide material for you, for homework for you to read and to be able to ask questions in our next session. And with that too, I do kind of provide a little bit of some homeopathic like remedies to help with like morning sickness, or like if you're feeling heartburn, this could help, not necessarily cure it, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not prescribing medicine, but homeopathic medicine is something I'm very also passionate about, especially when it comes to pregnancy, just because there are a lot of discomforts and there's so little that you can take when you are pregnant. You can't take aspirin in the first, the first trimester. So if you have really bad headaches, what are you going to do? So just to kind of help alleviate those discomforts. So I also provide that as well. And then I have a next package where you get to choose 2 5-hour weekends, so 4 days, 5 hours, and we pretty much sit down, and it can be a one-on-one if I don't have anybody else who's taking the course around the same time, and we just go over those things in 2 5-hour weekends. So 2 days, 5 hours, so 4 days, 5 hours, so 20 hours, and you get to pick and choose what 2 weekends you want to do that, or 2 days you want to do that. I'm pretty flexible on that. And I do provide all the material. So it's kind of just like, bam, here it is, and let's talk about it, and let's go over these 5-hour periods of time that we have together. And then my last class, and that package is $350. So it's my next step up. My last package is my most expensive, and it's really if you hire me either at last minute or to me, this is more also for people who want a refresher, who've had multiple kids, who are like, I already know like what my body's doing, but these are the things that I want to know more about. And I pretty much give you my curriculum and I say, okay, pick and choose these options. What do you want to know about? And we can just go over those ones. So it's really just 35 weeks. If you're at 35 weeks and realize, oh man, I need a childbirth education class, or it would be really nice, or I changed my birth option, I'm not doing home birth, I'm doing the hospital, can you tell me what to expect? It's really for people who are in those positions. And so I offer payment plans, so it's not upfront, and it's not a huge investment upfront because I'm trying to be realistic and respectful of everybody's, situation. Because I've been in situations where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but by the grace of God and by the mercy of people who are in this community and in this business, they understand that, and they were able to kind of work with our family to be able to support us and give us, those experiences. So I do offer that to people. And I forgot to mention on my first package, we meet once a week for an hour and we do what we need to do and answer any questions you have. We go over material, we talk about things, and really that's my favorite package because I'm such a one-on-one person and I'm such like, what do you want? Okay, well, if you want this, let's do this. And like, let me tell you how you could do it, And so really it's just, and all in all, my services really want to help people know how to advocate for themselves, know how to fight for what they want if it's within like reasonable means. Meaning if you don't have any past medical history, but you want to do X, Y, and Z, and there's really no reason why you can't, then let's try to figure out, let's get you to be able to, one, plan for that, or talk to your provider about how to be able to accomplish that. So it's really equipping people, knowing how and what they need to do in different situations.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of moves us right along into the subject of informed consent. And so I want to talk about that with you. I want you to tell us what it is, and then we can kind of dive off into that.
So informed consent is a consent that you give to either your doctor. So basically your doctor or your care provider, whether it's midwife, whether it's, OBGYN, in any situation, whether it's your pediatrician for your own child, it's you basically they're providing you information in a situation that is requiring you to say yes or no, or I agree, or okay, we can proceed further. And so that's really what the consent part is. They're coming to you with a situation, they're giving you X, Y, and Z. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. But to be informed about it means that you are pre-educated, one, that you go in, because this is something that I try to make clear to a lot of people and a lot of moms, is mainly people who in this first time moms, because they don't really know what to expect when they go into the hospital, because they don't really, I didn't know. I was like, what is my body doing? People are telling me my body's going to do this, but I don't know, like, can it, will it, and so you have all these like questions and you're like, well, I've never seen my body do this before, so I don't even know, I can't even grasp it that this is actually going to happen to me. And so when you go into these birthing situations, you're in labor, it's really not the job of the staff to educate you. They are not there to be your doula. They are not there they're there to be your doctor, and they're there to monitor you and your baby, to make sure, looking for red flags, to make sure things are running smoothly. They're not really there to educate you. And so before you go into these situations, it's important that you are educated, and that being informed means that well aware what the benefits are, what the risks are, what the alternatives are. Do you want to do it right now? Yes or no? So that's really about being informed. And so when a doctor comes to you about wanting to you be giving consent to them, the important thing is that the thing about giving consent to any provider, anybody, is that you need to know exactly what is going to happen. You need to know exactly what the risks are. That would mean side effects. That would means like if you do get this could happen, this could happen. And although, just so you know, if you get this is going to happen. You need to know those things. But most importantly, not to only know those things, you need to understand them. Because I think people, they're like, oh yeah, no, I know, my doctor told me that, they gave me a paper, and and that it's very important, mom, that you read that. And it's very, even if it has anything, because once you sign that, I mean, it's very hard to withdraw it. Very, very, very hard. And it's actually the obligation of your doctor. They are obligated by ACOG to provide all the risks, all the benefits, any alternatives, and the risks that come with those. And so if your doctor is not doing that, you as a mom need to you got to hold them accountable, because you can't, I mean, it just, to me, I think for moms, I'm like, well, if you sign something, it's going to go in your file. And if something happens, like whether it is malpractice or not, and I hope that does never happens to anybody, but you did sign it. So that is a document, that's a legal binding. I mean, that could be used against, if you were to ever go to court or something ever were to happen, that is your signature. And so it's very important that, you know what you're doing. So to be informed and to give informed consent means that you have the education, you understand, and you're allowing this to happen, or you're saying no,
Yeah. No, I think that's so good to know. Again, one of those things that I had no clue about in becoming a mother. And I think it's so important. Now, I feel like out of all three of my kids, Bowen, my youngest, I felt the most, I had educated myself a lot more to where, I knew going in that we were going to not do certain things when we got to the hospital. And, that there were certain things that we were going to do. And I just knew going in, like, you've got to stick to your guns. Like, if this is what you want, and then, you've got to be willing.
Because my question is, like, what would be the fear if you said no? Because that's something that sometimes I ask people. I'm like, okay, well, what would happen if you said no? What if you said no? No, I'm not doing that. But what was your fear? Like, what could have been your fear?
But I think so many don't know that they can say no. And so that's so important to know that you can, and you have the right to. And I 100% believe that God has given us a mama instinct. And there's been plenty of times that I have done or haven't done things that I know that I should or shouldn't have done. And then, ended up regretting it. But, I am a very non-confrontational person. Amanda will tell you, I do not like it at all. And I'm very much like, I'll do what you tell me to do type of a person. And so even going into this third pregnancy, going into the hospital, knowing that there were things beforehand that I did not want to happen, or that, services that kind of were typical that I just didn't want to do. I knew, like, I literally had to pep talk myself of like, no, this is what we're going to do. And I mean, I even told Scott, like, listen, you know how I am. I need you to help me be brave. And because I know that like, if I start feeling the pressure of like, oh, maybe I'm not doing the right thing, then I will oftentimes just like, it's okay, I'll just do what you say.
Yeah.
But I mean, I specifically remember at the hospital, a nurse in general, when I told her that I wasn't going to do the thing, and I'm not even getting into that because, again, non-confrontational person, but I remember she got so mad at me. Like literally her neck and her face were beet red. And she kept going on, like making me feel like such a terrible mother. Like, why would you ever choose to not XYZ? Like, don't you know that this and this and this is going to happen if you don't? And I just remember being like, I'm fixing to cry. I'm fixing to cry. But literally praying,
Yeah.
God help me, God help me. And I did. I stuck to my guns. And I'm so thankful that I did. And not to even like knock the whole hospital situation, because I'm just going to tell you, I liked being at the hospital for me personally. And I know many of you out there do too. So nothing wrong with it. I wanted to have my experience at the hospital. But just go in knowing that you do, you are your own advocate. You have the say of what happens and what doesn't happen. Obviously, when it comes to medical things, doctors do know what they're doing. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that I'm smarter than a doctor or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I am just saying that there are.
But the important thing though, like with that is like, if you get a good OB and you like it, and like that's awesome, because there really are OBs out there who are very much pro mom, who are very pro like, yeah, let's do this if we can. Very much. There are OBs out there who are like that. And so I want to give that credit to them. But with that comment of, they're doctors, they know what they're doing. They really do. But there's also things that you can know too, that like they may deem as like, oh, this is, X, Y, and Z. We need to do this and this and this. And you're like, wait. Like, I know what's happening right now, And so just the idea of the doctor is supreme, we can know and give them credit for the knowledge that they do have in training, but that doesn't mean that you can't know that either.
Right. And
because there's
ask questions and you
right.
you can't question what they're doing or question those things,
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
and that's really what we're trying to get the point across of is, the informed consent, like knowing your stuff, educating yourself, go through courses, go through people like Amanda who provide these things to where you can be educated and know what's what before you're going into the situation. I wish that I would have. I wish that I would have. And so, but now we're here telling you, hoping that it can help some of you. And so,
and the reason why I was asking what you would probably fear if you did say no is because that really, the reason why people don't say no aren't very brave and can't, end up crumbling like under pressure, because it really is a natural thing sometimes for people to do that, because they don't want it. Like you said, they're not confrontational. They don't want to cause problems. They don't want to cause a big scene. And we really essentially don't want that in general. But at the same time, we also, one thing that I tell moms is like, what's your fear behind it? Like, are you afraid that they're going to threaten you to like take X, Y, and Z, or to do X, Y, and Z? Because really, and I don't know if a lot of moms know this, but they're not allowed to do that. ACOG says if anybody, because this is part of giving informed consent to them, is if you deny any medical practice or anything, the ACOG says that they are not allowed to threaten you. They are not allowed to do that. They are not allowed to take you to court. They are not allowed to threaten to, call services against you. Unless they absolutely have reason that they need to bring on other expert opinions to do that, but they're really not allowed to do that. And so I think sometimes the fear behind it is because, oh, if I don't, then they're going to call so and so, and that's going to cause a big problem. And and sometimes that happens. And usually when I talk with moms and they're afraid of that, I usually give them, you need to hire an attorney. Like, if you're really afraid of that, you need to have like some good, people on your side if that does end up happening. And it's horrible when it does. But at the same time, and if people go against that, like, or any medical care provider goes against that, then there's a lot of issues with that. And so it happens. But with that though, I don't think moms know that they're actually not allowed to do that. And I think in this day and age, I think it's important for people to kind of wake up a little bit and be like, you have more rights than I think what people like you're not giving yourself enough credit, like, you can do this. If you can't, let's help you. Let's give you the tools to be able to do it. And if in the end, like, something happens, we'll adjust, we'll figure it out, So
Yeah.
I think that's important to kind of make note of.
For sure. For sure. No, super helpful information. So we got a couple more minutes left. I just want to spend this last couple of minutes. I want you to tell us what your website is so that we can, if you are interested in doing any kind of courses, if you have questions for her, any of that, you can go directly to her website. And then, so tell us your website and your social media handles so that people can follow you and go find your courses.
Okay, so my website, if you're on a desktop, it's mamacabinet.com. But if you're looking at it on your phone, the way that you can probably view it a little bit better, that's a little bit mobile friendly, is if you go to my Instagram page, which is Mama Cabinet 101, and there's a link in my bio, and it will link you to my website there. But I'll go ahead and send all the links and everything like that, so that way Casey can go ahead and post it with this this video here. That way, if you didn't catch it, it's right there down in the box for you guys to go ahead and click. You can also reach me by email, info.amandamejia13@gmail.com.
Yeah. And I'll post all of that in the comments for y'all so that you have it. And then also, if you are not a part of my group, Wholesome Made Simple, go ahead and go join that group. If you like content like you're seeing, the interview that I did yesterday and then today, that's typically where I post this kind of stuff. And again, my heart is through the group is to educate and inform and provide resources for you, just with all things health and nutrition, motherhood, homeschool, all the things that I'm passionate about. So go over there, like Wholesome Made Simple. And I would so appreciate it if you have watched this today, if you will like it, if you'll comment, and if you will share it. I would be so appreciative, because we truly believe that the information that we talked about today and that I provide in my group could be so helpful to so many. And so be sure that you share this. And yeah, we're so glad that y'all came and hung out with us today. Again, y'all go and look Amanda up. And even if you're like way past the birthing stage of things, we all know somebody that is, either pregnant right now or thinking about it or whatever. Just send this information over to them. That would be super helpful for them to have in their arsenal. So Amanda, do you have anything else before we end the meeting?
No, I don't. Actually, you know what? Now that I think of it, yes. So I do have a podcast. It's called Mama Cabinet, Making Informed Decisions in Motherhood and Beyond. It's a little bit on a hiatus, but I got about 13 episodes on there. I've talked about Pitocin. I've talked about informed decisions. But most importantly, since we're talking about childbirth education class, I did talk about part of the reason why it might be very encouraging and a very good thing why somebody would want to take the childbirth education class. Yeah. So you can also listen to that, and you can find me there too. But once we kind of get through this whole season of life, it's crazy busy nowadays. Then I'll probably get back on that podcast and start talking on there too. But until then, enjoy what's there. And if you have any questions, you can always email me or catch me on social media. So,
well, thanks, girlfriend.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It was a good time. Thank you so much for having me. I felt super honored, and I'm hoping that anything that I said was totally the Lord. And if not, I just pray that it goes one ear out the other. But in other words, like, I'm hoping it's super helpful, and yeah, that, it helps in some way.
It will be. So, well, we love y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, and y'all have a good rest of your Friday.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.